The opinions expressed by the host and guests in this show are not necessarily the views of Children's Health Defense.
Good morning, CHD. It is Wednesday, the 3rd of September 2025. I'm going to be bringing on a guest. I do need to tell you this segment is going to be very distressing for a lot of you, but it's really important that we talk about it. I was watching UK Column News, which I highly recommend you all do as well. And I saw Sandi talking about this, and we invited her on to talk to you about this. But again, this is a very distressing segment, but hold on. And if you can't watch us, totally understand, but do come back in around 20 minutes for Miriam and Scott McCullough and Hal Spackman, who are going to do something on a much more positive note. But this, again, is extremely important that you all hear this if you can. So I'm going to bring on Sandi Adams. Good morning, Sandi. Thank you for being here with us.
Good morning, Polly, and thank you. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be talking about something very nice today, but it's lovely to see you all. Thank you.
Well, Sandi, so I was watching you and I heard this horrific piece segment that you were doing. Can you explain to our viewers what you were talking about? Because I think we need to go really sort of break it down so that they can understand what we're talking about.
Well, I came across this. There's a lady in Australia called Dr. Joanna Howe, and she had put a news item out on her YouTube channel, and she'd taken it from a newspaper article called the Daily Declaration, which is a Christian newspaper. But on the back of that, somebody else had taken it up in the Advertiser. A very brave, I can't remember the lady's name who put this out, but it was a big article in the Advertiser in Australia, and it's that women are being paid initially $4,200 to abort their babies. Now, they inject their babies with a drug that kills the baby. And then after that, that's an abortionist does that. And then after that, they can go into a hospital and have that baby delivered stillborn. And because it's delivered stillborn and they have the right paperwork to say it's been stillborn, they can then go and get a payment of $20,000. Now, this is the, I just want to just show you, it's very distressing, the video that Dr. Joe put out. It's kind of an animation of what exactly happens to these little babies.
And Sandi, they are at 20 weeks plus we're talking about.
Yeah, the criteria is how we define stillbirth. This is all through Services Australia, which is the company that are, it's almost like a medical company, and they're saying to be eligible for our payments, a stillbirth needs to meet our definition. A stillborn baby is one who had not breathed since delivery and had no heartbeat after birth. To be considered stillborn, a baby also had to have a gestation period of at least 20 weeks or weigh at least 400 grams at birth. So this is this is some of the paperwork. So this is not fake news. This is actually happening. And the Australian government seem to be condoning this. So Dr. Joe said that, women, health professionals are traumatized because providing the woman has the right paperwork, which is signed off by two health professionals to say the baby was born stillborn, even though she's elected to have it killed, she is still eligible for something called parental leave of over $22,000. And a lot of women are going on holiday with this or changing their lives and just discarding these babies. And the health professionals are traumatized. And if they don't sign it or if they kick up a fuss, they will lose their jobs.
So, Sandi, let's just summarize this up and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. So you can be pregnant, over 20 weeks pregnant, and you can decide you don't want this baby anymore for whatever reason. And so you can then go and have this horrible procedure done to kill your baby.
Mhm.
You then go to hospital to give birth to this baby that is now dead. The baby is born dead. And then you get a payment, and it can be up to $20,000
Mhm.
for your dead baby. We don't know what happens to the dead babies or why. Why is this even? I can't even get my head around this. I mean, as a grandmother, mother, grandmother, I mean, you see these with scans these days, which I know people say you shouldn't have and all that kind of thing. You can see these are fully grown babies kicking, and it's murder, is it not?
It is murder. It's murder. There's no other name for it, really. It's murder. And, it's interesting that when I covered this on UK Column 2 weeks ago, I don't think my bosses actually believed that it was real, that it was true. And I said, look, I've done all the research. It's there. They actually phoned the Australian government and asked them directly. And just like, as we'll see later, the Australian politician who's asked about it in Parliament, Katie Gallagher, they obfuscate it completely. They wouldn't say that they were giving the payments, or they wouldn't say they weren't. So there's something going on here, and it's deeply dark.
It is deeply dark. And I'm sorry, viewers, I know this is distressing, but how do they kill a 20-week plus baby in the mother's womb? How do they do that?
Well, Dr. Jo has a video on her YouTube channel, and there is an animation which we're going to show. And if you don't want to watch this, please, it's only an animation, but the content is so distressing. But yes, we'll run that if we can.
So I don't know if it's got any volume.
So what she's saying is that whilst in utero, the baby's injected with a poison called digoxin, and as soon as the baby dies, the woman is then given an induction pill, and the baby is born stillborn. And all they need is the paperwork to say it's born stillborn from 2 health professionals, which is traumatizing an awful lot of health professionals as well. So that is, it's just born in a normal way, vaginally, but it's dead. And then they're given the payments if they've got the right paperwork to say it was born dead.
And that's just 2 doctors, one who was there to see the baby dead. But again, viewers, remember, the woman chose to kill the baby.
Exactly.
So there's a question, Sandi, and it's so dark in my mind, but this is going to encourage women who know not what they do, is all I can say, to, if you can get 20,000 to get pregnant and do this, I mean, it cannot be allowed.
It can't be, and I'm absolutely amazed that it is happening. But it's so obvious, because we do have a clip too of the what happened in Parliament, where there was a lady called Pauline Hanson who questioned it to Katie Gallagher, the politician, and she completely obfuscated the whole thing, and it was all down to paperwork. If they got the right paperwork, it's fine. No problem. And the heckling that Pauline Hanson had questioning this, I couldn't get that at all. Is that people are so indoctrinated with, it's all about the woman's rights, or the woman comes first, without any recourse to the child's rights, because they don't have any, because they've never drawn a breath. And is that really right, that if a child hasn't drawn a breath, it's not considered a human being? It's absolutely appalling, and it is murder.
Let's run these clips, and so we can see Pauline Hanson talking in Australian Parliament.
Well, Minister, you never answered the question, which was, why is it made to women who deliberately abort a baby? Minister, this policy risks creating a financial incentive for late-term abortion, where Australian women can terminate a pregnancy up to the day before birth. They can terminate a pregnancy up to the day before birth, allowing women to receive a lump sum payment and access to paid parental leave of up to $22,754. Why is the Albanese government funding the murder of healthy babies, some left to die in a kidney dish for up to 5 hours?
Thank you, Senator Hanson. The time for asking the question.
And then don't we have another clip of the response?
The answer to that question is the same as to my earlier question. There are laws in this country around termination of pregnancy. They are laws that are regulated by the states and territories, and I support those laws. One of the reasons I got into politics was to ensure that women had the right to make choices about their own reproductive health. I accept that some people disagree with my views on that and with laws in states and territories that provide the regulatory arrangements around that. Now, in relation to the stillborn baby payment, as I said, and as it relates to other payments, including PPL, evidence is required, documentation is required before those payments are made. In relation to the stillborn baby payment, that includes certification from someone attending the birth, a health professional attending the birth, that the birth was of a stillborn child. That is the documentation that's made or required in order to receive that payment.
I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely unbelievable. And I did in her report, Dr. Howe. I mean, do go on to her. She's called Dr. Jo Howe, and she has got a campaign. I think it's probably only for Australia where you can sign a petition, but I think this should be a global thing. How can a country be allowed to get away with this? And she said in her report, she speaks of at least 2 medical personnel who've alerted her regarding the aborted baby bonus. One is a South Australian hospital administrator who said midwives are traumatised and shocked by the rise in late-term abortions of healthy babies. She revealed staff are being effectively forced to sign off on Centrelink forms so women can claim payments, a process adding a double level of trauma by co-opting them into a system that financially rewards elective abortions. The second is a midwife who described a traumatic late-term abortion in which the mother stated she would use her aborted baby bonus to fund a holiday in Bali, a remark that left the midwife in tears after delivering the stillborn baby. Dr. Howe explains her sources are forced to remain anonymous because whistleblower protections in Australia only apply to those exposing illegal activity. This is legal. And since both late-term abortion and claiming Centrelink payments for them are legal, medical staff who speak out about what they're witnessing risk losing their jobs.
I can't believe that there's anybody in this world that thinks this is okay. Anybody. How can you think this is okay?
Yeah. It's it isn't okay. I mean, I've been chucking around in my head the reasons for actually allowing this to happen. And, you know, is it another form of genocide? We've got genocide going on with wars. Is it just another form of genocide? Or is it that they're harvesting these babies? Who knows what either way, it's evil. Whatever they're doing is evil. And it has to be opposed in every single way. I cannot believe it. And, concerned Australians are encouraged to sign Dr. Jo Howe's petition. It's on her, do look her up, Dr. Jo Howe, HOWE, and share this story as much as you can. She is really trying to push this globally. So thank you so much for bringing me on to push it, because I was so horrified, and I still am. And I think it's really important that we get this out, really important.
I do as well, Sandy. And while I've got you, just to move on, and I've got a few more minutes left with you, I know you're expert on global governance. What's happening in England at the moment? I see all this flag situation going on, which horrifies me, because I feel like it's almost like a bit of a setup, because you're all fighting each other, that everyone's turning on each other.
Well, this is another psyop. You've got NGOs and global actors dividing people deliberately. And I think Ben Rubin covered a very, very good article on UK Column on Monday, and do look at it. I can't remember all the details, but there is there was suddenly this guy popped up who was saying things like, oh, he was on GB News, which is our biggest news channel at the moment, because everybody's gone away from BBC, ITV, all that, and they're now watching BBC News, GB News, which is another almost alternative but not quite news channel. And so basically he said that there was this NGO who suddenly has popped up saying, take down the Palestinian flags and put up the British flags, and they're monitoring them. It's an intelligence operation. This guy, he's looked at his LinkedIn page, and he's actually working for the deep state. So yes, we need to not fall for this. Don't fall for pulling down Palestinian flags and putting up British flags. If you do put up British flags, just don't allow. Don't get dragged into the division, because unfortunately, your flag is your flag of your country, and you should be able to raise it. But because we've now got the whole thing going on in Gaza and Ukraine, it suddenly becomes a minefield. And we've got marches coming up on the 13th. Tommy Robinson is marching. Who knows what will happen? But let's hope people remain calm, because what they really want is civil war. So that they can actually gain global control or control of the UK. The UK has to fall. They've got to make the UK fall before they can do everyone else, the same way. So yeah, it's absolutely dreadful what's going on.
It is. It's disturbing to watch and sad to watch. And then one other piece of news from the UK that I'm very upset about is this MMRV coming in from Jan. So instead of the MMR vaccine, they're bringing in the MMRV, which is the chickenpox, mixed in with the MMR. And our science department are working on putting out some great pieces on how dangerous this is going to be. And we will be sending that all over to warn the British parents, please do not take the MMRV, please.
Oh, that's really good you're doing that, because it's an overwhelm on the children's bodies there. They can't cope with all of that in one go. Yeah.
Well, Sandi, I was in England visiting my mum. She lives in Shaftesbury in Dorset, and I was over there in February. And the whole of Shaftesbury had chickenpox, and nobody cared. Nobody cared. It was just like, oh, she's got chickenpox. Stay away from the elderly. But everyone was running around with chickenpox. Now that you have a vaccine with the chickenpox in it, it's now a very dangerous disease, and you're all going to die in England. I mean, it's
absolutely ridiculous, because when I was a child, and you're younger than me, but we used to go to chickenpox parties, mumps parties, rubella parties as well, and we got everything, and because we just went to the parties.
We did, Sandi, and I remember my mum actually being a bit upset with me because I didn't catch measles. We passed around these little lollipops, and I didn't catch it. And she was really annoyed that she's going to have to take me to another measles party, and why can't she just get it all over and done with? So we go from that to we're all going to die, and then of course
we're all going to die of measles. I mean, I can't believe it.
It's shocking, but Sandi, we love your work. And to our viewers, please,
thank you.
UK Column News. I love all of the hosts on UK Column News. Very excited. I watch it all 3 times a week, all the time. So big love to everyone at UK Column News.
Thank you. And if you want to find me, I'm please subscribe to my website. It's sandiadams.net. You don't have to pay anything. Just sign up for the newsletter. I'll be doing a newsletter every month, but there's plenty of stuff on there for you to look at. And I've just opened up a Substack, which is at Sandi Adams 2030. So yeah,
we're definitely,
and I'm on X as well. Yeah.
Okay, we'll definitely everyone be following you. And thank you and I'm sorry to our viewers for that distressing news this morning, but it's so important that we know what's going on so we can stop it coming to a country.
God bless you. Brilliant.
Thank you, Sandi.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Sandi. All right, so now I'm going to hand over the show, which is going to be a lot lighter, I think, with Miriam Ackensfeld. Just to say that tomorrow, Catherine Austin Fitz and I are together, and we're going to be talking about breaking down the control grid. So I think you're going to enjoy that. Catherine's on sparkling form at the moment. So good morning, Miriam, and I'm going to hand the show over to you.
Good morning, Hal. Well, hi, good morning, everyone. As Polly already mentioned, I'm Miriam. I'm the director of CHD's EMR and Wireless program, and I am excited to start this new segment, which we're going to do every 2 weeks to give you insight into what is going on in the EMR department and within our initiatives, through which we fight against the involuntary exposure to RF radiation coming from cell towers. As I'm sure many of you are already aware, one way we are doing this is through our Stop 5G initiative. Through this initiative, we represent communities in their fight against cell towers that are proposed close to homes and schools that could harm the children and the environment that they grow up in. So today we're going to talk about one of these communities that we are representing in Sitka, Alaska, and it is my pleasure to welcome one of the community leaders that we're currently representing, Hal Spackman. Hal is a retired educator turned advocate from Sitka, Alaska, and he is part of Sitkans for Safe Tech, which is the group that's leading the effort to fight a 120-foot cell tower that is proposed in the middle of their small residential community and pretty much right next to Hal's house. I'm also welcoming our chief litigator, Scott McCullough, who is representing Sitkans for Safe Tech and other communities where we support through the Stop 5G Community Empowerment Consulting Services. But first to you, Hal. So tell us a little bit how you first learned, you and your community first find out about the proposed 120-foot cell tower, and what was your initial reaction when you heard about the tower?
Our neighbors and my family's initial reaction was disbelief. To think that someone was actually contemplating putting in a 120-foot cell tower directly behind our house, so close that we could actually stand on our back porch and hit it with a rock. And it was in a landslide zone. And so an identified landslide zone by the city. And this thing just kind of took us all by surprise. And it's almost as if it was, I don't want to use the word clandestine planning, but it appeared that way because we didn't find out about it until it was almost approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And so we're greatly disturbed by it, and we launched into action to try to stop this because literally no one in our neighborhood wanted it.
Right. And what were some of the main concerns you had initially? Like, was it health related? Was it environment related? Or did you just feel like there was something not right putting this infrastructure this close to residents and homes?
Well, we had all kinds of concerns. They were health, they were environment, they were aesthetic, they were, just the character of the neighborhood. And luckily, we found out with the help of Children's Health Defense Network that we could oppose this for some of those things. We understood that we couldn't oppose it for health reasons, which it just seems so counterintuitive that it was hard for us to understand that our government actually didn't want to protect us from these things. And, there were children in our neighborhood that were living close and under this tower. And so we had to really strategize how we would work to stop this because, once again, literally nobody wanted it. And we view it as a very unnecessary piece of infrastructure that is driven by financial profit.
Right. And I think it's very important to zone in on that point that Hal made before we're going to move on to Scott, that communities are prevented by federal law to oppose cell towers based on health and environmental concerns. which is Section 704 of the Communications Act of 1996. And that's part of the problem. We can't emphasize that enough, that there is this huge need, which we're addressing through another initiative called 704 No More, to rectify that. But Scott, aside from the fact that we can't use health and environmental concerns to fight cell towers, tell us a little bit about how you and the Stop 5G initiative approached this case and what we have done with the Sitka residents so far, where things stand.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Good to see you again. First, 704 is a federal statute that directly says that local zoning authorities cannot regulate cell towers based on the environmental effects of the radio frequency emissions to the extent they comply with the FCC's emissions rules. Now, CHD is separately addressing this statute in two ways. First, as Mary mentioned, we have the 704 No More initiative, where we're going to directly challenge the constitutionality of this provision. Second, we're very active at the FCC, trying to convince it to change its emissions and exposure rules so that they actually reflect reality and recognize the biological and environmental effects of these emissions. However, in the Stop 5G initiative, we have figured out that most of these local zoning authorities are not too inclined to themselves directly challenge this federal statute. That's something that's going to happen in court. So as a consequence, what we do is we help local communities find other ways that remain permissible within the federal and oftentimes state structure to oppose towers, even when the main concern may be health and environmental effects. There are other reasons that you can bring forward to oppose cell towers. And we used all of those in Sitka. Property values is a big one. It's well demonstrated that a cell tower right next to a home is going to significantly reduce property values. And so that's one of the reasons that we can bring forward the public published science. If we get there in time, especially in front of the Planning Commission, we can bring forward professionals who can present expert opinions on property value impact in general and in the specific circumstance. Equally, it's related, but it is also different in the way that land use policies apply. There's visual effects. These things are ugly. Let's just face it, they're ugly. And it doesn't matter how you try to dress them up, make them look like something else. If you're right next door to one of these things, you're going to see it. It's Sitka especially, but it happens throughout the country. People have bought their homes where they are, specifically for the view. I mean, I was in Sitka a couple of weeks ago, and people buy their homes here in this very community so they can see the ocean and so that they can look up and see these beautiful mountains in this rainforest where Sitka exists. And this cell tower is just going to completely destroy their views. Finally, their safety and structural integrity here in Sitka, like Hal mentioned, it's in a landslide zone. And yet the applicant in this case did not come forward with any evidence that it had actually looked at the potential problem of landslides and how it was going to address it. This is a 120-foot tower. If it falls down, it's going to hit Hal. If there's a landslide, it's going to slide into his house. And it's the same thing with the other folks on that street. They are basically having their life and their property put at risk by this tower. So those are the main reasons that we were able to help the Sitkan folks address at the Planning Commission, and then ultimately on appeal, first at the Assembly. They all had to recuse for other reasons. There were some procedural reasons. This was sent to an administrative law judge to stand in their shoes, and we argued that 2 weeks ago. In this particular case, that local zoning ordinance says that they can put towers in by right if it is no taller than 35 feet. So the applicant here had to get what we call a variance from the ordinance. And that's a special dispensation. It requires a showing of unique circumstances. And in Alaska, and therefore also Sitka, state and local law says that you can't get a variance for pecuniary or financial reasons. And that's exactly what is the case here. They asked for their variance because they got a bunch of federal money, and according to what they say, they needed it to be 120 feet in order to reach all the desired users. And if it was 35 feet, they couldn't use their federal money. That's a pecuniary reason. The Planning Commission denied the variance because of that and some other reasons, including the ones that I went through before. This tower was denied because of views, property values, and the variance was for pecuniary reasons. We're now defending that decision on appeal.
Right. Thank you, Scott, for this comprehensive overview. And I think that's a good reminder that oftentimes residents are very successful in organizing before their local planning commissions getting these towers denied. And then what usually happens is that the tower company appeals that decision, and then it becomes more into a legal battle, which is where we currently are in Sitka. And we had this hearing before the administrative hearing officer 2 weeks ago. And so how, we always say that these fights, particularly before the Planning Commission, where you build the record that is afterwards looked at by a court, that these fights are about 80% political. It's about how well the community organizes and mobilizes and educates and advocates. And so Hal, walk us through a little bit like how you did that in your community. You learned about the cell tower. You knew there was a group of concerned residents. Like, how did you turn this into such a powerful movement on the local level, and what does your group do in terms of advocacy and education outreach? How do you approach those hearings?
Well, first of all, I wish that we would have contacted Children's Health Defense Network earlier. And they could have helped us in our struggle. And this is a struggle. Don't make a mistake about that. We were behind the 8 ball right from the start. The Planning and Zoning Department actually recommended this tower to be approved, if you can believe that. And then the commission, after listening to our testimony, said, this is a really bad idea. And anybody that would come up and look where this tower is would say, this is a bad idea. What are you thinking? I mean, the slope is so steep that it's unbelievable. It's in a pristine rainforest. It's in a neighborhood with children. And they had 3 deaths from a landslide in Sitka about three or 4 years ago. And it's like, why would they even consider this? And so we got together and we said, what are we going to do? Because we feel kind of hopeless, because we found out about you couldn't contest it on health concerns, which was, paramount on everybody's minds. And so we just started, looking around, and I looked on the internet and discovered that Children's Health Defense Network had done some amazing work with this, and we contacted them, and they've been helpful. Without them, I think we wouldn't even have had a chance to fight this thing, because the way that federal law is structured, and we're actually fighting a tribal organization, even though it's a for-profit endeavor, that we've got so many things that we're trying to fix. And there was another community in Southeast that just had their planning commission deny it from the same company a 250-foot tower. So, and in our community, there's only 8,500 people. And there's plenty of providers right now. I mean, I could go out and get 4 different plans for cell or internet. And they've got at least 13 towers in this town already from one of it to other. And there's only 30 miles, or not even that much. There's 20 miles of road. And, everybody lives on the ocean front, basically up, about a mile, maybe mile and a half from the ocean. And so it's just the idea of this overpopulation of cell and internet broadband towers is just mind-boggling. Somehow we have to stop this growth. And I was just down south, and I just was kind of shocked by the number of towers down there that are going up.
Right. So do you, tell us why people should pay attention to what's happening in Sitka, and why should they care? Because I believe that this can really be seen as a part of the larger fight against this onslaught of industrial infrastructure and cell tower. So tell us why should people pay attention?
Well, I love that word onslaught, because that's how it feels. You need to pay attention because it happens so quickly that you don't have time to mobilize. You don't have time to strategize on how to stop these things. And so I think that the companies actually rely on that. It's like, oh, all of a sudden, here it is. You've got 2 weeks or a week or 3 days or whatever it is to get together and have the planning commission stop it. And it could literally be in your backyards. This is proposed not only in a designated landslide zone, it's proposed in a zone residential 1 area. We didn't expect all of this to happen when we invested our life savings in this. And we aren't a bunch of rich people living on a hillside. We're just regular folks. And so it could end up in your backyard. And don't think that the companies won't use their political might, their financial might, and federal law to try to shoehorn it in where you live.
Right. I think that is a great wake-up call, because we all need to pay attention, because what's happening in the communities that we are representing could happen in your backyard, or on your playground, or on your school football fields tomorrow. So Scott, tell us, how can people find out if there is a cell tower proposed near them? And if they find out that there is a proposal, what do they do?
Okay, first of all, let me follow up with one thing Hal said, because here's what's really infuriating about all this. In Sitka, but in a lot of other places, they're actually using federal money to do this. The federal government is in very large part funding the onslaught of this wireless proliferation. And then they are disabling the local communities from being able to fight them on the real issue that we all really should be fighting over, which is the health and environmental effects. It's just an insane situation. Now, how can people find out? In most jurisdictions, there is a notice requirement. Sadly, it's relatively short. We call it the notice radius. But in most jurisdictions, if you fall within a certain distance from where the cell tower is proposed, you're supposed to get direct notice. Other times, it's merely a sign. There may be a sign that goes up where the property is. Now, in this particular situation, it's on what I call a goat trail, hard to get to. But technically, there should be a sign there that says, we're proposing to put this monstrosity. If you got a problem, talk to the planning commission. They also usually publish in the local paper. Finally, you can oftentimes go to the planning commission's website or the planning department website, and they typically have a list of where these things are being proposed. You need to be vigilant. As soon as you get a notice, or you see a sign, or you see something in the paper, you need to start acting. And, we really recommend that one of the first things you do is call us so that we can help you get organized. We have a game plan. We have a playbook, and we can help folks get together really quick and start putting together an opposition package. The resources are fairly free. You can use us, or you can just use the resources that we publish. But you've got to start acting really soon. It is sometimes hard to find out, It's oftentimes quite late. You only get notice 10 or 15 days before the hearing, but you've got to really, really start kicking into gear as soon as you get any wind of this.
Thank you, Scott. And so what you just saw on screen was the stop5g.org step-by-step instruction. And if you go to the website stop5g.org, you can see that step 1, where it says find out if a cell tower is proposed near you, you can look up the steps that Scott was just talking about, your planning commission, your news bulletin, etc. So as we continue to fight with Sitkans for safe tech, Scott, what can we expect happening in the next couple of weeks?
Under the schedule, the hearing officer is supposed to issue the decision a week from this Friday on the 12th. And we will know. The options are basically 3. One, can affirm what the Planning Commission did, affirm the denial, we would win, or can remand back to the Planning Commission for the development of further evidence, basically a do-over, or worst case, can overturn the Planning Commission and decide to issue the permit. From there, it'll either be over at the local level, one way or another, potentially go to court, or we'll be back before the Planning Commission and starting over.
Right. So either way, it's not over. These fights, they tend to drag on. So Hal, are you and your community ready to continue fighting?
Oh, absolutely. And, I think that should we have to continue the fight, we're going to expand our efforts for public awareness, because this particular company has at least 5 more towers planned in a community that already has at least 13 towers. And so it's the thing that people don't understand is anytime you're entering into this kind of conflict, it's very stressful for the people involved. You have mothers that are virtually, besides themselves, worried about their children. You've got, elderly people who know they can't get out of the way of a landslide. And, there's just so many things that are at play here. And it's very stressful on the people to fight this stuff. It's expensive, too. I mean, without Children's Health Defense Network, we wouldn't have been able to afford any of this to fight this. And, like Scott said, they're using government money against us. This company went ahead and bought the land anyway, even though they don't have the variance for the tower. And, it just makes it makes me more stubborn wanting to stop this, because if we can stop this, I believe that, we can show people there's hope that, citizens can stop something you don't want.
Right. Yeah. We are very used to that, and you put that perfectly. It's a long fight and it's an overwhelming fight, but we are ready and committed to fight alongside you. I think you guys have been doing an amazing job in Sitka. And for everybody else, I encourage you to visit stop5g.org, find out if a cell tower or antenna is proposed near you. Also visit 704nomore.org to learn about the broader federal effort, and subscribe to our newsletter email list at the bottom of the page. And last but not least, also follow us on social media at Stop5G Near Me and at 704 No More on all major platforms. Thank you very much, Hal, for taking the time to come and talk to us about your efforts in Sitka. And thank you, Scott, as always, for being here and for being the great representation of these communities that you are. And with that, I will see you guys in 2 weeks, and I'll hand back over to Polly.
Thank you, Miriam.
We're live.
Great.
Okay, tell us your name.
Lauren Friedman.
And you are a midwife and a nurse.
That's right.
How long have you been in that game for?
I graduated nursing school in 2008, so until I was fired in 2021. I was a nurse and I was a midwife. Graduated my midwife program in 2018.
So talk us through what happened to you. Why you got fired?
So I got fired. I was working 2 different part-time jobs. I was working at a major medical center, University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill as a nurse. And then during the week, I was working as a midwife at our local birth center in Chapel Hill. So the vaccine was mandated at the university for COVID. For my previous 6 years of employment there, I had a religious exemption approved for the flu vaccine. So I never took a vaccine while I worked at UNC. My exemption had always been approved. So when I submitted my COVID shot exemption, they denied me. So I resubmitted it and they denied me again. So then I kind of tweaked it up a little bit and it was once again denied. And so that was my last chance to resubmit the exemption form, and I never got to speak with a real life human being that looked at my exemption. I called Human Resources probably 100 times. I mean, I documented in my book that I used to keep track of what was going on. I documented that I called them like 50 times.
Why would you not take the COVID shot? Well, are you anti-vaccine?
I mean, anti-vax is a terrible term, isn't it?
To talk.
I'm not anti-vax, but when I had my first son in 2013, I was in a master's program of nursing to become a nurse practitioner. So I was quite educated and indoctrinated into the education system and kind of the hospital incorporation. My husband was the one that said, I don't know that we should get the vaccines. And I was saying, you're crazy. Like, that's so dangerous. How could you be anti-vax? Like, where are you getting this information from? And then as we kind of looked into it during my pregnancy and after he was born, we just thought, well, we'll just delay them because we don't feel 100% confident in getting vaccines. So it kind of started with the birth of my first son, that we didn't believe that vaccines were beneficial.
As a nurse, did you ever administer shots?
All the time.
And you never had an inkling that something was wrong then, only when you were pregnant with your child?
Well, no, not really. I never questioned it. And also working in the hospital, like I did for the first couple of years as a nurse, you don't give that many vaccines. That's more, usually happens at like a pharmacy or your clinic or doctor's office or something. So I never really gave that many. But yeah, once I kind of started opening up my mind to the fact that there could be some danger there, I always had a hard time giving the vaccines, especially when I started working in labor and delivery. And you're supposed to give the hepatitis B vaccines, 12 hours after a baby is born. Yeah.
And you did that? You gave those shots?
I did. It felt terrible.
Did you see the decline in the babies afters ever?
No, because in the hospital they're only there for like a day or two. When you give the shot at 12 hours, you might not even see that baby again. I was actually a nursing instructor for the School of Nursing at UNC, and so I would take students in to help, give the shots. They would give the shots and I would observe. So I was very happy to not give them myself, but I also knew that I was partaking in the, I don't know what you want to call it.
It's difficult. Okay, so back to your baby. So your baby did not have the vitamin K or the Hep B.
Right. So we went, now I have 3 sons, so none of them have been vaccinated with any of the childhood vaccines.
Not one of your 3 children has had any shot whatsoever?
No. Well, so we did get vitamin K. We did give vitamin K.
All 3?
All 3. Not
interesting.
Well, I can't remember with my first, but I think he might have had it. My second 2, I did choose to get the vitamin K, but I never did any of the other shots.
And how old are they today?
10, 6, and 3.
Girls, boys?
All boys.
And how are they?
The healthiest kids you've ever known. They're incredible. Super smart, athletic, healthy. Just healthy. And I have a lot of, family members that I can kind of compare their health of their children, and I don't know, maybe it's also because we eat well. I know you talked about organic chicken a minute ago. I know we also have very specific requirements about what we eat. Not to say that they never eat junk, because of course we do, but for the most part we have a pretty We don't eat a lot of GMO foods and things.
So I'm so thrilled that your children are unvaccinated and healthy. Now, here's the bit, and this is not a criticism, because the majority of people watching right now are vaccinated. Like, we all did it. Mm-hmm. How are we going to stop the medical professionals who know these shots are bad, but yet want to keep their job and continue to? A bit like you were, in a way. You knew that those Hep B shots weren't great, but yet you still had to give them for your job. We have to stop that. How are we going to do that? Because in the end, you got fired anyway.
Yeah, I think the hard thing is it's on an individual to make a decision about their own health, right? It's on the parent of the child to say, yes, I want this vaccine. No, I don't want this vaccine. So if I'm meeting someone and they've already been told that it's safe for the child to get the hepatitis B vaccine and it's better for them to get it within 12 hours as opposed to waiting 2 months like it used to be. They've already been told this pre-birth, and I'm coming in and I've known them for 5 minutes. There's only so much education I can do. Here's your vax information sheet that we're required to give to you, which a lot of the times parents don't even receive that. And that's going to be partial to the child getting the vaccine anyways. So the education has to come before that. Like, it's kind of like when people come in and say they want an unmedicated labor and birth, and then they haven't done any prep work. They don't know what to expect. They don't know how to cope with the labor pains. And when I'm your nurse for 12 hours and I've just met you 5 minutes ago, I can't help you there. You have to help yourself.
But the parents don't know that.
Well, yeah.
Because they trust the white coats. And they, to a degree, you and the midwives. And so we need to change that. And I'm just trying to figure out how we do that.
I think it has to come from, it's not going to come from the medical institution the way it is now. Because people, first of all, everybody in mainstream hospitals or medical fields, believe that the vaccines are the right thing to do. So if you don't ask questions and if you don't question things that are mainstream, then you're not going to get that information. It needs to come from within each person, I think.
Are you still practicing as a midwife?
No. So I haven't been able to get a job since I got fired. I'm working with a home birth midwife now, and I do attend births with her pretty casually. I'm also homeschooling my 3 kids, so I don't have that much time or flexibility to drop and run to catch a baby with her. But every time that I've applied for a job since I've been fired, there's always a checkbox on the application that says, by checking this box, you know that the COVID-19 vaccine is mandatory. And I think that must flag my applications because I never get any calls back. And it doesn't make any sense because I'm an experienced nurse. I got great references, so it's not that I don't have any, ramifications on my nursing license or anything like that. So I truly believe that when I have to check that box saying that, I know that by not getting the vaccine, or that you need the vaccine to be hired, or that I think that it must flag my application, and they never call me.
So the day you got fired, talk us through what happened that day.
Well, it kind of, the thing is the termination process kind of dragged out over a few months. They announced that the vaccine would be mandatory in July of 2021. At that point, I was just a few months postpartum with my 3rd son, and I was still breastfeeding, and I knew that I already knew I was not going to get the vaccine anyways, but I kind of tried to chalk it up to that, as one of my main reasons. So I had to submit the first exemption, and I just assumed that it was going to get approved because I'd been approved the past few years for the flu vaccine, and I was using the same exemption that I actually worked with a lawyer to get written up so it was legally sound. And then over the course of the next, between September and I can't remember the exact timeline, but basically once they denied me 3 times, every single day I would get an email, a generic email. You're non-compliant with the COVID vaccine policy, and if you don't get your vaccine or start your process, you're going to be, and it would be a list of things. You won't get your incentive pay, or your profit sharing check. You won't get, you won't be eligible for this, and it was all of these things. So basically got that email every day, and I called human resources at our hospital every day for months. They told me that the people that made the decisions about the exemptions didn't have a phone number. I couldn't actually call that department, the employee relations department. So I never spoke with a person that actually looked at my exemption. I never spoke with anyone about coming up with some alternate plan, because I would have even suggested, well, if you would keep me on, maybe I can get regular testing, which I really wouldn't have done anyways. But I just wanted to talk to someone about their reasoning. I still have not spoken with a person, and I still will randomly call. I opened up all these human resources portal tickets, and I would call human resources and they say, oh, well, so-and-so closed that ticket. And I said, well, how could they close it? Because no one ever reached out to me like they were supposed to. Oh, well, they assumed it was resolved. That person must have resolved it somehow. They couldn't have resolved it without speaking to me, because the whole reason I was calling every day was to try to speak with a real person about not losing my job. And I never spoke with a real person, ever. My direct manager didn't want to even fire me. She was like, it's out of my hands. I can't control this, and I don't even know how to direct you to anyone else. I never even received a termination notice or anything. The day that I was supposed to be fired was November 3rd of 2021. The day just came and went. Never received a phone call or an email. I even emailed my manager that week and I said, I'm on the schedule still for this weekend. If I don't show up, I just want you to know, can I come or can I not come? Because I would come if you would let me. And she was like, no, I had to process you as terminated, or whatever the change was in the system that she made. So, yeah.
So as a mother of 3 unvaccinated healthy children, as a midwife, an experienced nurse, what is your advice to the young mother?
Well, I think you have to take your own health into your own hands. You can't go to the doctors, you can't go to the hospitals, you can't go to the medical system. They're not going to get you healthy. You have to take care of yourself. You have to educate yourself. And although sometimes it might be harder to do things with food, with exercise, with natural remedies, maybe an unmedicated birth, all of those things lead to healthy lives, healthy children. And you're not going to hear that from mainstream physicians. So that'd be my advice. Take your health into your own hands. Don't look for other people to fix your problems for you. You have to do it yourself.
This is going to be a hard question for you to answer, but I'm going to ask it to you anyway. If you go back into the field, are you still going to vaccinate those babies?
I mean, I don't think I'm going back into the field currently, because after being at the hospital and being surrounded by so many smart people that were just so indoctrinated, and going through this process of being fired and not having a voice in the situation, I don't think I can return to that kind of institutionalization ever again. And I also know that being in a hospital and for patients receiving that kind of care, it's awful. It's terrible. It's not good for people. So I don't see myself going back into that setting ever.
Find a more holistic one.
Right. Yes.
Well, thank you. A doula. Maybe just be a doula.
Yeah.
Thank you for being so honest and sitting here and telling us. I'm so pleased you have these 3 healthy boys, and appreciate your honesty.
Thank you.
History doesn't wait. This is our moment to rise, unite, and reclaim our children's health.
Join us here in Austin, Texas this November at the Children's Health Defense Conference.
In the wake of unprecedented medical overreach and censorship, the world is waking up, and people like you are leading the way.
We're at a turning point in history. With the pandemic behind us, our fight for freedom and health has reached the global stage.
This is our moment of truth, and we're ready to seize it together.
And Children's Health Defense has been at the forefront of this charge. Our 2025 conference brings together the leaders, visionaries, and warriors who made it happen.
Meet the parents whose lives were forever changed, and hear from doctors who risked everything to speak out. Stand with those who refused to be silenced.
You are going to hear from world-renowned speakers, doctors, and frontline leaders driving the medical freedom movement.
Discover real-world solutions grounded in science, integrity, and human rights.
Join the discussion to talk about vaccines, informed consent, parental rights, and so much more.
And you'll, of course, hear from your favorite CHD personalities, sharing the latest on CHD's research, litigation, and outreach.
And while you're there, soak up the energy, culture, and music of beautiful Austin, Texas.
Whether you're a parent, a practitioner, or a medical freedom advocate, this is your call to action to protect what matters most.
Be part of the movement that is rewriting the story for generations to come.
So please join us.
Join us.
Join us. Let's make history together in Austin.